that's going to make. That addresses the 175th Street and I-35. They talk about having a vibrant downtown. I mean, that's feedback we've received on a continual basis, not only from the business community, but from residents that said that that's something that they want from Gardner. That's the kind of community they hope for. So again, these aren't things that Laura, during her grand scheme of budget building, says, I can't wait to build a better downtown. How can I fit this money in? I don't want that misconception to be out there. These are things that we've asked. And if we haven't asked for them directly, then it's because of citizen feedback or business feedback between the chamber, the civic engagements. I mean, through how much feedback did we get through the process for the, that's what I just said. Yeah,
CPAC conference.
Yeah, all these things. I mean, we engage the business, the faith, and citizens in each of those. And these are the same types of feedback that we're getting back from them. These are what we'd like to see from the community. All these things are built upon that. So, again, I think the focus is, hey, those 5 guys and Laura came up with this grand plan pie in the sky that we have to go get now. That's simply not been the case. And when we discredit that feedback that we've got from individuals when we just say, actually, economic development is not important this year, let's scratch it and just, we'll get to it whenever. Or, and you know, we talk about the 26% rate increase. That came from, we're not going to worry about it now, we'll worry about it later. So when we keep doing those, we get into that trap later on down the road. And that's where I struggle with the way Larry wants to approach it and with some of the things Steve's addressed tonight. Well, Tori, it's things that need to be addressed, that people have come to us and said, please address. And we're trying to put plans in place to do so.
But I
Well, and I know, Steve, you want to promote economic development.
Absolutely I do, but I don't think that it's an either-or proposition. I think you can promote economic development in a way that doesn't bust the budget. And I'm looking at expenditures here that in many areas under the general fund that are exploding here.
Well, let's take one example. IT. Has anyone looked at that number?
Well,
we
actually talked about IT.
We did that on purpose.
We asked them to do that.
But what was it in 2013? Does anyone recall?
It was a lot less.
It was probably 300,000. This year it was 600,000. Next year it's going up 50%.
You have a couple of really big projects. We talked about Microsoft licensing for $100,000 for compliance. We talked about a network rehabilitation.
We're licensing every computer.
No. You'll have to.
These are things that I kind of like to know, where's this money going? Because
well,
people I've talked to, I mean, all I know is you had one IT guy, and as far as I could tell, the city was running pretty good on a $54,000 a year salary. Let's double it. Let's double it.
But hold on, but Larry, if you'll recall, last year we budgeted over, I think it was a 3-year time frame, a certain amount of money, a significant amount of money to upgrade all of our network.
$300,000.
And now I'm not going to say you necessarily agreed with that, but the budget passed, the consensus of the council was that we were going to do that to bring all of the IT, internal network stuff up to par. And have redundancy.
And I realize this is one of those things where you like to get back down to the minutia, but this is why we made a conscious decision as a governing body to proceed with the budget as a priority-based system.
Well, the minutia is the dollars and cents that we should try to cut. That's why it is minutia, is that we need to go back into the numbers and strip out some of these costs.
And even at the last council meeting, I asked if anybody wanted to go back to doing it the way that you like to do it, and you had no support on the governing body. You didn't have any support from any of the council members.
Tonight,
you didn't have any support from the chair.
Well, tonight there's 2 other people that want to reduce the mill levy.
Here's another question I had with regard to revenues. I'm looking at the general fund revenue summaries on page 38, and it talks about the transfer mechanism. And I think we had talked about this last year when we talked about electric fund. Okay, and I'm looking here at the projections, and what I'm seeing is that our 2013 actual was out of electric was $795,000. Our budgeted for 2014 was $910,400. We're estimating it's going to be $136,300 this year. Somehow in 2015, the electric fund transfers go down to $704,100.
And that's easily explained.
Okay, please.
Yes. Last year, The governing body was not very happy that I could not document how the franchise fee and/or the cost for general fund services were attributed to the electric fund.
Okay.
So we hired a consultant who created a cost allocation model.
Okay.
And we no longer do those. This consultant was picked, we sent a thing out to 8 different people. KMU recommended 5 of them. We got back 1 response. That group came in here and met with every department in this city before Bill Krawcheck and Brandon and Janet left. They had the same amount of input as everything else. At that point, I stepped out of the process and turned it over to the staff so that there would be no concern that I in any way influenced the numbers. And the model that was created is over 4,800 rows. It was done by this group. They came in, given the input from the departments, and created a model that is used by the accounting staff without me to come up with the true cost of general fund services to all 3 utility funds.
Okay.
And that is the number you see on page 38, about 2 inches down where it says GF cost allocation revenue.
Yes.
There is a corresponding number in the electric, water, and sewer funds that add up to those numbers. So that's why you do not see anything below under transfers for water fund transfer or wastewater fund transfer. They are now 0. And the electric fund transfer is decreased because I very specifically went in and took 5% of electric revenues less penalties and reconnect fees, because last year we divided those equally among the 3 funds, so I wasn't double dipping.
Okay.
So now and the consultant that does the electric revenue forecasting, there are no formulas in the electric fund. I cannot document anything. But I can tell you, because I can back into the numbers, the consultant decreased the 2014 projection. What he's done is he's gone in and looked at 2013 actual. Remember, I said they were down 5%. He reset the base and inflated each year 1%. So,
1%.
and I have no justification, rhyme, nor reason on any of that because I'm not a part of it. And you have an electric board that may or may not have discussed it, but Bill was here for this cost allocation study and was very much in favor of it, and that's how it turned out.
I was going to ask you about the 343-0100, the cost allocation revenue thing.
So there is a corresponding line in each one of those enterprise funds that adds right back up to that amount, and that is continued out through the out years. And I will also tell you that we've taken such pains to do that. Remember when we talked about internal service funds, anytime you have a project that impacts a specific fund, so something that maybe building maintenance is doing specifically for the electric group or specifically for wastewater, we allocate it directly to that. But anything else that's maybe based on FTEs or square footage or whatever the calculation is. So, for example, the IT fund went up a whole bunch because of those specific projects. So 63% of that goes back to the general fund because that's how it turns out. 63% of the usage for IT happens in the general fund. So you will see in the out years where you talked about how the expenses were exploding, it's almost all of it has to do with the realignment of enterprise funds versus, so that's consumption and rates versus tax levy.
So
that's all we did.
So where it says GF allocations on page like 122, that's money that, tell me where that money is coming or going from.
Well, let me catch up with you.
That's coming from the enterprise funds. You're talking about water, wastewater, and electric.
It's coming from those funds
and transferred into general fund.
On page 122, where it says GF allocations.
Right.
So you're looking at the electric fund.
Well, I'm looking at, there's, every one of these enterprise funds has
And they
sum
should.
of money coming from,
Yes.
are you saying that that's?
Their portion of the general fund services they received. So, somebody on the outside did those calculations, I had nothing to do with it, and they came in and said, after meeting with every single department,
Mhm.
What do you do, what do you do, what do you do? They built a model, because that's what they do.
This is cost accounting.
It is, yes,
What I asked
that's